Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 122nd installment of the Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Parshas Emor, a packed parsha speaking about the laws of the Kohen, laws of the high priest, disqualifying blemishes, talks about safeguarding the offerings and truma, blemished animals, the festivals, plenty more to speak about. So one of the things I want to speak about is about the Kohen Gadol. Says chapter 21, verse 13. Says, he shall marry a woman in her virginity. That's nice. So, the Kohen Gadol is obligated to marry somebody that has never been with another man. So the Rambam brings out that the positive command in the Torah, that the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, has to be married. Right? Not only does he have to be married, but he has to marry a virgin. So according to this, that what's it coming to exclude? He's not allowed to marry a woman who's been with someone else. And therefore, when he gets married, he has to marry a virgin. Says Mori Varebi Aravagon Mushtar Mukslita should be well, brings down in Tam Vidas. And he says you find over here a major difference between the high priest and a priest of the Christians, or a priest of, so-called other religions, and that is that these so-called priests, are not allowed to have benefit from this world. It's like they separate themselves from this world. They're not, they don't have any, they're not married, etc. And they do other things that separate themselves from the world, and they don't marry women. Here, the Torah is extremely stringent that the high priest, and everybody else amongst the Jewish people has to be married, right? But the point is that the high priest, seemingly being at an extremely high spiritual level, you might think maybe it should be more, separating from this world, like maybe other priests, certainly by the Christians, no question about that. And he shouldn't be married. Comes along the Torah and says no. Comes along the Torah and says even in his holiness he has to be married. Right? He has to be married, has to have children. Right? And that is a positive command in the Torah. So what's the purpose? Why does he have to be married? Right? First of all, Torah says he has to be married. Right? But nonetheless, it's the Ratzon Hashem. It is the desire of God, right? It's God's desire that he should be married. Now, we know, we've spoken about many times, the difference between Jews and non-Jews, etc. Here is pretty graphic. So I want to focus on this idea of separating from this world. Now, the right idea according to the Torah is that you have to have a connection to this world. Even if a person, let's say, makes a vow, and in the vow says that they're not going to eat this, that, or the other thing. Stay away from things that are permitted, certain things. Right? So the difference of opinion, the Talmud tells us if that's a good thing to make the vow and establish it, or it's better never to make the vow. So we hold it's better never to make the vow. Why not? Right? Why is it better not to make the vow? It's better not to make the vow because if a person makes the vow and doesn't uphold it, doesn't keep it, right? That's bad. So, but not only that, we don't necessarily go around separating ourselves from things that are permitted. So we learn out from the high priest, how stringent the Torah is, that we have to live in this world. There are times for meditation. There are times, for going out to nature, etc. But, as I would say, be normal, right? Certainly not everyone does that, right? Not even close, right? Very few people, actually do that. Again, if a person wants to do it, they could, right? But yeah, you have to be in this world, right? You have to live in this world. And we have to sanctify the physical, which is a very hard thing, right? It's an extremely difficult thing. We see by Purim, just give that as an example, right? Purim's a crazy day, right? People drink, there's a lot of, all kinds of things go on, right? During the day. And we say that Purim is like Yom Kippur, or even greater than Yom Kippur, right? Yom Kippurim, a day like Purim. But you see that Yom Kippur and Purim are two polar opposites, right? On Yom Kippur, it's all about doom and gloom, right? It's all about fasting. It's all about making yourself feel like a piece of dirt, wanting to change. And in Purim, it's all about eating and feasting, drinking, all the craziness, and sanctifying God's name. Right? Two polar opposites. But why, in some ways, can Purim be considered as greater, even greater, than Yom Kippur? Because on Purim, you're sanctifying the physical. Sanctifying the physical is a much harder thing to do. Because when you sanctify the physical, you uplift your spiritual side. So the Torah wants to make sure that we understand clear that when a person lives in this world, that's exactly what they have to do. They have to abide, by what the Torah says. But the Torah makes clear, you want to be part of this world? You are part of this world. You can sanctify. You can sanctify this world, by making blessings, by doing chesed, helping other people, in many different ways. You can uplift your spiritual soul through the physical. Now, in something like this, where the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, seemingly, one of the greats of that generation, spiritually speaking, you might think, well, maybe he should be like other priests. He has to separate himself, can't get married, right? Not allowed to be married, has to be celibate, right? We know what problems that can certainly cause. Why would God turn that off? If that's one of the most powerful urges a person has, okay, so you're on a much higher spiritual level, so you stay away from it altogether, right? That's not a Torah idea at all. It's forbidden, according to the Torah, right? People have to be married, right? Certainly have to be married. So the idea of someone even on a very high spiritual level, like the high priest. So the Talmud says that that the high priest has to separate, has to have the 7-day separation. He has to prepare, right? Definitely has to prepare himself. Now, even if he has to prepare himself, right, there's the question, what happens if his wife dies? What happens in the interim? He goes to prepare himself for Yom Kippur, and his wife dies. The Talmud says he has to be married. You have to have a backup, right? A relief wife, a spare wife. That's how important it is that at least when he serves, he has to be married, right? He can't be not married. So we might think, like the Christians who make the mistake and say, no, you're married to God, right? You're married to God. You don't marry anyone else. You don't be with anyone else, right? A nun, same thing, right? She takes on this vow, right? Takes on this vow and isn't with anybody else, for however long. She takes on this vow. So they look at it as something being, so esoteric, and serving God at the highest level. Again, we obviously know what the problems with this is. But the Torah says the high priest on such a high level got to be married, got to have children, right? That's part of being, that's part of being the high priest, like anybody else, right? You have to be married. So we don't say this world is bad, this world is evil, stay away from everything, make all these vows. Yeah, we've messed up this world. Man has an evil inclination. And a lot of times, unfortunately, they act on their evil inclination. Even if they do that, they have the opportunity to do tshuva. But by living in this world, we have to sanctify it. Now, this world's a double-edged sword, because we're put in this world against our will, right? As the Mishnah, Pirkei Avos says, Mishnah and Ethics of our fathers tells us, you're born against your will, you die against your will. So I would say you still have to live. Right? In parentheses, you still have to live. So how are you supposed to live to the highest spiritual level in a physical world where there's always this constant struggle between body and soul? The only way to do that is through Torah. Through learning Musar. Now, it is true. A lot of things in this world we should stay away from. Right? That is definitely true. And if we don't stay away from them, these negative influences, then they were going to totally affect us in a negative way. What does it mean like this? That, when it comes to frivolities of this world, a person may have this strong desire to want to be wealthy, to want to have a lot of money. Right? What does a lot of money bring? Well, you say, I don't have to work as hard, I can do what I want. It brings freedom. Right? It brings a higher level of freedom. True. But what does it really bring? It brings enslavement. Because say, money brings enslavement? Yeah. Because you're enslaved to your desires. And now you can fulfill your desire by doing whatever you want, because you have plenty of money. Right? So you work hard to keep that money. You invest it. Whatever the case is, in order to make sure you make more money. But the thing is, it's the thrill of the chase. And even a person that has a lot of money wants to make a lot of money. Even a lot more money. But see, what happens is that there's this poison that's injected into the soul. The poison is, false ideas, false premises. Money we need in order to live. Right? The more money you have, the easier it is to survive in this world. True. But, but the purpose of money, is to help me. I'm not interested that you make, so much money that I'm not going to serve God. You're going to say, if a person made so much money, was so successful, of course they're going to serve God. Right? Why wouldn't they serve God? Because we have a verse that says explicitly that, if a person has wealth, then they're going to forget God. And someone who struggles, someone has difficulty, they could definitely be God-fearing people in a very short amount of time. Someone who's got money, they don't need God, right? For them, they have everything. They made themselves. They made themselves wealthy. They did all these things. As if they took themselves out of the womb. So they've gaiva. They are conceited. And if God gives a person money, tremendous amount of money, even if they work very hard, doesn't matter. However they get it, they'll forget where it comes from. They will kick God in the teeth and say, I did this myself. Take God totally out of the picture. Right? Obviously, that's heresy, that's bad. But running after money is a disaster. It's poison. Because the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, it says in Ethics of our fathers, person has 100, wants 200. Has 200, wants 400. Doesn't end. Only question is how a person deals with it. So, a person has an obligation to put bread on the table. We may have to work hard to do it, true. But see, once I'm not doing it, I have to be focused. And that focus is on God and serving Him and doing what the Torah says. So, a person can envelop what the Torah says by what they do in public. A person in the bank doesn't push in line, is courteous, doesn't yell and scream or throw a tantrum or whatever. He does what God wants. He implements what he learns. Right? He's not interested in going against what the Torah says. Someone cut you in line, how are you going to react to it? Etc. So we're given all kinds of tests. Right? We have all kinds of tests that we're given to see if, we're going to pass or fail. So when it comes to the Torah itself, and how we keep it, the test is when we're outside amongst others, what we do, how we drive, all these different things. Right? And that's going to show what a person is and how much Torah they've learned. A person can be an expert in many different things in Torah. Can learn a lot. What about character traits? Where do the character traits come in? I've told the story before that, one of my rabbis learned under someone a, bona fide Torah scholar, nothing to talk about, and learned by him for a certain amount of time and just couldn't learn by him anymore. Why? Because this person's character traits were horrific or despicable. So you're going to say, someone with that knowledge, with that amount of Torah knowledge, how could it be that they're despicable? That they have bad character traits. So, the idea is the following. When a person learns, you cannot compartmentalize. You cannot just learn the Torah and acquire knowledge without it affecting you, without it changing you, without it making you better. Because otherwise, that's called mental gymnastics. That's like, as Ramosha Schneider, Zechon Tzadik Livrocha, his name be blessed, my Rebbe's Rebbe would say, that's like being a Frummer student. That's like being an ultra-Orthodox student. We don't learn Torah like mathematics. We have to apply what we learn. It doesn't matter how difficult it is. We still have to try and, reach the highest spiritual level we can. God doesn't care if it's hard. He made it hard for whatever reason. He wants to see what you're going to do, how it's going to affect you. So being part of the world, that means, I have to take my Torah outside the four walls of the base medrash, of the study hall. Not enough just take your physical body with the soul. You got to take what you learn. You got to make it really a part of your life. You have to exemplify what you learn. What's that going to do? It's going to give you an opportunity at all times when you're outside the confines, of the place where you learn, that the Torah is true and you're living it. How are you living it? How you interact with others. A person sees you're cool, calm, and collected. You're not hot under the collar. You wait your turn. You're nice. So you say, well, I could do that without the Torah. I could be nice without the Torah. Could be. I'm not going to argue that. There are people that have good morals, without being a Torah observant Jew. But the vast majority of people can't do that. Why can't they do that? There's too many pulls of society. Society will pull you in a million different directions. And when they pull you in a million different directions, peer pressure and other things are going to get to you. And when it gets to you, then you're going to fall. The only question is how far. So all these trials and tribulations are there to build us. They're there to help us. They're not there to break us. Now, it could be that we have these difficulties, right, in order to get us to change. Because what does God say? God says, you go against me, I'll do something, in your country to wake you up. If that doesn't work, I'll do something in your state, in your community. That doesn't work, I'll hit you. Right? The big gradation there. But, you don't do what you're supposed to do. God says, fine, I'll whack you. I want you to understand you did something wrong. I'll slap you upside the head in different ways. So doing the right thing means what God told us to do. Exactly the way the Torah says and is explained by the rabbis. The rabbis need to explain it because without them we wouldn't understand anything. Torah is very vague. So we need guidelines. We definitely need proper guidelines. But you see, if we don't worship God and we don't do what the Torah says, then basically we're worshiping idols. So you say, wow, that's an extreme position. Yeah, it could be. But if I don't serve God, who am I serving? You could say, well, I'm serving myself. That could be. But at the end of the day, we'll have to take an accounting for what we've done. We're going to have to realize, obviously not everything we do is right, and there will be repercussions. Some people may say, well, you know what, God, you made this world so strong, so powerful. Anytime I do something wrong, it's onus. What can I do? Evil inclinations, way too powerful. So comes along God, thinks about it, and he's like, I don't think so. What you're saying is true. This world, meaning the physical world, is a very strong pull in many directions. So even if it has a very strong pull, who cares? Why should I care? It has a strong pull. And I have this evil inclination. It's going to cause me, all kinds of problems. Right? That's true. Right? That is absolutely true. Nonetheless, God gave us an evil inclination, Talmud says. And God gave us an antidote. The antidote is the Torah itself. So, now let's think a little bit more deeply into this. So at the outset, what do we say? The way the Christians look at the world, everything's evil. So, what's the point of doing anything? So it's a good thing someone came to this world so he could die for our sins. Right? We don't have to do anything. Well, for us, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because there's repercussions for our actions. There's reward and punishment. Now, different levels. What a person may go through, right? What they may have to go through. But the real test, the real medal of a person is what they do when they're outside the study hall. How they act, how they speak. Now, it doesn't mean all the time they're doing the right thing, but, when they learn, they also have a certain amount of time to learn Musar, to learn books of ethics, many good ones out there. Nonetheless, they get him on track. They keep him on track. Because as great as he might think he is, which he may be, he may be head and shoulders above everybody else. But nonetheless, there are people greater than him. Right? Tremendous, previous generations. Can't argue. Had he been the previous generation, it could be he wouldn't have gone as far as he did. So I want to make sure people are clear. As we mentioned many times, whatever we do, sometimes we're more successful, less successful. But at the end of the day, you got to put your best foot forward. And by putting your best foot forward, what that does is it gives a person the opportunity to draw close. That's what sacrifices are all about. It's about drawing close. But drawing close means according to the way the Torah says. Drawing close means taking the physical and sanctifying it. That's the best way to do it. Because if you don't do it in that way, and it's mental gymnastics, that's all it's going to be. So, the most important thing over here, without getting, too depressed and lost in detail and all that, is to realize, what does God want from us in this world? Right? L'maisa, practically speaking. What does he want? So if you go through the Torah, you go through the prophets, you see there's a pattern. The pattern is, there's certain people on a proper level, and that's great. They still have what to work on, but that's great. You get other people that fight against spirituality. And when they fight against spirituality, they get bit. Right? They get demolished. Why? Because the spirituality makes perfect sense. The whole world is a spiritual world. Right? That makes perfect sense. But the idea that these other things don't make so much sense, why should I keep it? That's that's potentially an issue. Does it mean, that's something I want to go back to before, does it mean I'm not allowed to enjoy anything in this world? It's all doom and gloom? No. Right? You're allowed to enjoy certain things in this world. But the Ramchal says, path of the just, you got to be careful. Because the more you give in to desire, that desire stays with you. It doesn't ever disappear. I guess unless you, the reality is that when we navigate this world, this world, the Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, is a prose door. It's like an antechamber to the world to come. You want to get to the world to come, you have to go through this world. Right? We're not coming in as spiritual beings in this world. We are a soul in the body. True. And there's always this conflict, which we mentioned before, between body and soul. Also true. But you see, nothing happens in the next world until you go through this world, until you're tested, until you're given certain tasks to do to see which way you're going to go. Is it easy to be distracted? Certainly is. But you see, we're part of this world. Being part of this world means I have to partake in what God wants me to do, even as a physical being. He wants me to make blessings over food. He wants me to keep Shabbos. He wants me to keep the festivals. He wants me to have a family. He wants me to be married. So, someone on a very high spiritual level might think not that way. It's not good for them to be married. Because the reality is they have to, they want to work on themselves tremendously and have, maybe not have as much desire in this world. So, they have to be married. And if, when the high priest does the service a week before and he practices getting himself ready, God forbid his wife dies, he has to be married to someone else. So, that means he's part of this world. That means, though, he can get benefit from things in this world. But you see, you have to know how to do that. Right? The Ramchal says in Path of the Just, basically, you shouldn't get benefit from many things in this world. You should do the minimal in this world to enjoy. Why? Because doing the minimal is not going to have you go after money. It's not going to have you go after any other desires you may have. Because you understand this world is temporary. Fame! I'm going to live forever. It's temporary. We're all going to die. But at the end of the day, what are we living for? Are we living for the next electronic device? When the new thing comes on the market? Are we living for movies, for entertainment, for sports? You say, no, I also have a family. Very nice. What are you really living for? What gets you up in the morning? Got to make money. Why do you have to make money? Got to support my family. Got to support myself. Got to work hard. True. But at the end of the day, you put your best foot forward and that's it. God wants you to have more money, you'll have more money. Wants you to have less money, no matter what you do, you'll have less money. But you still have to put your best foot forward. And you can never forget what your purpose is in this world, as a Jew or a non-Jew. Right? Your purpose is God gave you a soul. That soul goes into a physical body. There's a conflict between body and soul. The goal is to go towards the soul. Go towards spirituality. Not just going after the physical. Because going after the physical can certainly lead a person astray. And the more a person does that, the further away from God they are. Does that mean I can't do anything to enjoy myself? No. Person wants to go on vacation, have a little bit of R&R, you're allowed to do that. If you're going on vacation because you want to see the world, I want to go to these different places before I die, and see, all these different things. You're going to say, well, it's God's creation. It's God's glory in this world. Could be. Does that mean, I have to spend, thousands of dollars going to different places to see it? Doesn't mean that. A person has to rejuvenate so they can serve God properly. We're not saying everything fun is forbidden. Right? Everything within reason. With what a person needs. Because, we're living in a tremendously weak generation. But at the same time, what we want is to go in the direction that God wants us to. Going in that direction means that I'll serve and do whatever it takes. And try and do it at the highest level. So even though there's an obligation to be married, right, the Ramchal says, you should use that power within reason. A person can't be with his wife like a chicken is. Right? Certain times permissible, certain times not. A person has to know how to harness these things. Because if you don't, you're subservient to them. Who's the only truly free person? As the Mishnah in Ethics of Our Father says, the one who learns Torah. You can say it's free. Right? Like someone once said to me, they said, wow, you live this totally restricted lifestyle. You seem 10 times happier than me. Why is that? I go, it's pretty simple. Because this is real. What are you living for? What are your goals? Some people are just alive because they're alive. They don't need goals. They don't have desires, to do much, make something out of themselves. They do what they do. And then they die. Have a few kids, retire, see part of the world, if you're able to, and that's it. Very depressing. But when God gave us a spiritual soul, that spiritual soul is to reconnect to Him. How are you going to do that? Through Torah, through mitzvahs, through helping others. You're gonna gain from that. You're gonna be a different person. Does it mean you're always gonna do the right thing? No. Does it mean that you're always gonna reach your potential? No. But you see, every day is a different day. Maybe yesterday I didn't accomplish as much as I could have. Today's a different day. As my Rebbe says, you can't live in the past. If you live in the past, you have no future. Because people say, no, it's too hard, it's this, you failed. You're right. It's probably all true. So what? Next day is another day. Got an opportunity to reconnect. Again, we go up and down, because of whatever life throws at us. But a person has to work. A person has to work very hard. And if a person works hard and tries to do what God wants, you will succeed. You will have knowledge. You will have building blocks, one on top of the other. Even if a person doesn't know anything right now. You learn here, a little bit here, a little bit there. And over time, you're going to acquire knowledge. Doesn't matter if you don't remember everything. But you're going to acquire knowledge. Torah is limitless. Right? Torah is infinite. As much as we've learned it, go back and relearn it. Right? No such thing as, I know it, I got it down pat. Think about it. You can think about things in many different ways. But you see, where we differ, certainly than the Christians, is the way we look at the world. Yeah, we may have an evil inclination. Yeah, there may be evil in the world. There may be people doing things wrong. There may be wars. There may be famine. There may be all kinds of things that go on. You have to let God do what He does. And we have to live our lives accordingly. And even if it's hard, as we say every day, you got to serve God with great joy. It's hard. You're right, it's 100% hard. Well, we mentioned a few times. It's always good to mention good things. And as the Ramchal says in Path of the Just, how do you get to love of God? How do you get to serving Him properly? By doing things over and over and over again. By learning and relearning and relearning and relearning. Well, you might say, well, that's boring. Maybe it is. But you see, when you learn about a certain mitzvah, a certain thing, you learn about it, you relearn it, you go through it again, you go deeper. The deeper a person understands anything in Torah, the more meaningful it is. And therefore, through constantly doing this, gives you a higher awareness. That higher awareness is going to rub off at some level. Does that mean we're all gonna become tzaddikim in the next hour? No. Does that mean we're going to be tzaddikim tomorrow, the next day? No. But a person has to have goals. You have to strive. I mean, I use my own life as an example. If you were to say, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, more than 25 years ago, okay, I was already going in a certain path when I was younger. So maybe I'm not necessarily a good example. But if you would have said, okay, you're going to do this and do that and do the other thing, I would have said, no, why? Like, how do you know that? Because again, you can see a person's progress. If a person has a desire, and this is a hard thing to have, but if a person has a desire and they want to go in the right direction, God does everything else. You open up your heart a little bit, God does the rest. Right? How many people have gotten to me, I don't know, through a video, through Tanakh Talk, through, maybe something they came to my blog by some miracle or whatever. How many people have said, this is what I need. I found what I need. Then they hear me speak and they're like, no, not him. Not him. But why is that? Because people will say, I prayed for this. This is what I was looking for. And God put them in my direction. Right? They open up their heart. They said, God, I'm looking, I'm searching, find me someone to help me in this path. Okay, some people ended up with me, for better or for worse. But you see, when your person opens themselves up and they want to do the right thing, God will help them. If you want to do the wrong thing, God's not going to stop you, right? Because that would take away our free will. I'm saying, in my own life, I've been, I've had this light burning, this desire just to know and to know. And etc. But, it's not easy. Like people say, oh, you sit and learn all day, when I used to sit and learn all day. So, I was like, you want to try it? It's not so easy. Now, people make fun of it. It's not so easy. You got to maximize 3% of our brains that we use. So that being said, you're looking at living proof of this. I didn't start off with very much knowledge. Not at all. I learned for a couple of years by conservative movement. Didn't mean I had any knowledge there either. Came to learn in yeshiva. I was a big shot coming from Columbia University. I started the first level from scratch. The only difference was, I knew how to read Hebrew. Didn't understand a word, but I knew how to read. So that helped. Helped about this much. So, if a person has that desire, and you want to go in the right direction, okay, so to get to where I got to, I had to go in a roundabout direction. Right? So, conservative movement, I had to go into modern Orthodoxy, until I got to where I am. Right in the ultra-Orthodox world. Right, for the last 25 years. That being the case, it was, each thing was a stepping stone to the next. Here I thought I had the truth. Nope. Here I think, this is it. Nope. Okay. Now I know where I need to be. And I've, been this way for a long time. But you see, over the years, the more you learn, the more you're going to retain. Right? Everyone at their own level. But as my Rebbe said, when I want to go out, when I was much younger, and teach, he said, listen, I'm an old man. Take my advice. He says, if you want to go out and teach, learn. Learn for however long you can learn. At that time, I had plenty of money, so that wasn't a problem. Learn for as long as you can learn, and then, he said, I promise you, you're going to have that knowledge, you're going to go out like fire. And he was right. It took a lot of perseverance. It took many, many years. But I said, if you're going to be the one, to tell me that, whatever, I'm attaching myself to you. And he guided me over the years. Turned my life absolutely around in a positive way. Unbelievable way. So how did I merit that? I'm not sure. The only thing I can say is my heart was open. God put me in the right direction. Give me people that are going to help me get in the right direction. Right? So I was learning with someone from South Africa, very close to my Rebbe, and I had, a bunch of questions and whatever. He took me to go see him, and that's where it started. That's how that relationship started more than 20 years ago. Pretty darn miraculous, considering where I came from. So, my heart of hearts, I didn't say, hook me up with the greatest rabbi of the generation. My heart of hearts is to put me in the right direction. Well, he certainly did that. No question about it. And he helped me learn from the biggest of the biggest. So a lot of what I do is just embellish what he says. What other great people say. I very rarely say anything on my own. But the knowledge base that I've gained over the years, is pretty unbelievable. You just sit there and you learn. You acquire more knowledge. The more knowledge I acquired, as much as I remembered, it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, when I was much younger, could I have had success? I think I still would have had success. But with a whole different level of knowledge, it's a whole different world. Right? And how did that start? It started from the beginning. It started with, with basic learning. Chumash, Jewish philosophy, Jewish law, Talmud. But it was a slow grind. right? Especially, if you're not being compensated a lot, a person doesn't have tremendous amount of self-esteem, and there are, plenty of other people sitting and learning. They may, learn quicker, have deeper knowledge, this, that. They feel like a number. But see, the difference is, what are the goals? Where do you see yourself headed? What do you see yourself doing? What do you want to accomplish? We're not in this world very long. We got to maximize the time that we're here. But you see, one of the most important things a person has to do, there are two things. One is you have to be consistent, right? And if a person's going to learn during the day, it has to be, a certain amount of time, and it's not going to change. And no matter what happens, I'm not answering the phone, I'm not doing this for like the next hour or two, or however long a person has to learn. Because when a person has fixed times, person's consistent, it's a whole different thing. Because day in and day out, you're going to be learning and learning and learning. Right? You're going to come across new ideas. You're going to learn new things. And when you learn new things, these are all building blocks. And what do the building blocks do? Right? The building blocks give you the ability to start at one level and then get to the next level and the next level and the next level. But it's not an overnight thing. It's something that takes perseverance. All right, there are plenty of people out there who love to learn, love to listen to classes. You got to make the time to do it. But it changes people's lives. Right? I know plenty of people. It's changed their life. It's only through Torah knowledge. Because if you look at the other so-called movements that are failing miserably with intermarriage and assimilation, it's based on one major thing. And that is lack of knowledge. Because if they really had the knowledge of what the Torah says, right? If they really understood what we're supposed to do, there's no reason for assimilation into marriage. They just never learned. They don't have the knowledge. They're not a vessel for that. And that's why they're virtually disappearing. Learning can also be very dry. It can be. But you see, knowledge is power. It's not just for the intellectual stimulation, right? Torah is about learning and changing. Even when we fail, that is what it's all about. And if I put my best foot effort, the Talmud promises that a person who puts his best foot effort is going to get. You're going to receive the blessing of what the Torah says. Because there's nobody who learns at any level and gets nothing out of it. Nobody. Even if your head's full of rocks. You don't get nothing. You get something at your level. But it penetrates after a while. And when it penetrates, it changes a person. When it changes a person, then the soul gets elevated. The body gets elevated. And that is what purpose of God's creation is. So I want to remind people that I have conversion classes. I have no-hide classes. I have a class on duties of the heart every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock. It's a class in Jewish philosophy. I give a class on Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Leviticus chapter 4 every Sunday, 9 o'clock, New York time. I have a class on Path of the Just. It's not live. I have a class on the ways of the righteous, also part of my subscription website with a class in Jewish history. I have a blog. You can take a look at orthodoxconversion.com. You can find me Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on Facebook. Anyone who wants to contact me can contact me at rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can find me once a week also live video on Tanakh Talk. We used to do it Sunday afternoon, but it looks like it's going to be Wednesday nights, hopefully starting next week. Otherwise, going to wish everyone a great Shabbos.